Hello there, this is Shawn 1113 with your host for the Shawn 1113 podcast show. Thank you for joining me. Thank you for listening, by the way, wherever you may be, wherever you are, and wherever you're listening to, and whatever platform you're listening at. With that, as a reminder, please follow, please put a 5-star review, and also a voice message as well. Well, we are in the very month of May. A lot of things going on in sports as usual. A lot. I mean, one of the best times of year, like I said, March, April, May are one of the best times of year in sports, and May is no exception. That is now that we are in that month. Um, First, before we actually go, I'm going to do the NHL Stanley Cup playoffs, predict the NBA. But before I do, I want to mention a couple of things. Um, the Kentucky. I'm actually going to start with the Kentucky Derby coming up, and I do like the fact there are 25 horses in Kentucky Derby on May 7th, 2022. There are 4 horses I'm going to keep an eye on: Epicenter, Zandon with a Z, Crown Crown Pride out of Japan, and Classic Causeway. I think those are going to be the front runners and the favorites to win the Kentucky Derby outright, in my opinion. And that I'm going to repeat this. That the horses are Epicenter, Zandon, Crown Prince, and Classic Causeway. Now, boxing. I was looking forward to the Shakur Stevenson Valdez fight. It was not. It was a one. Let's put it, boy. Stevenson certainly deserved the win, but it was like a one. It was like a one-sided fight, basically, all the way. It looked like the exhibition to me. But then I looked at clips at the Katie Taylor Amanda Serrano fight. Oof. One of the best female fights I've ever seen in boxing. Really good. Go out of your way to watch that on DAZN, DANZN. Go out of your way to see that fight because it was a much better fight than any of the fights we saw Saturday night on April 30th, in my opinion. So definitely check your way. Go check it out. That's all I'm saying. PGA Championship coming up in May. And then you'll see the NBA. I've thoroughly have enjoyed the NBA much more than I've had in previous years, and it's very wide open. But I'll make the second round predictions for the second round of the NBA playoffs. Starting with Philadelphia and Miami, I'm going to pick Miami. Milwaukee and Boston, I'm going to pick Boston. Dallas and Phoenix, picking Phoenix. And then maybe the most intriguing matchup of all, Golden State and Memphis. Can Memphis, the young player in Memphis, outlast the veteran team in Golden State? I do believe Golden State will win that series. I would not be surprised if Memphis also won that series, but I'm picking Golden State here. State here. Also, ongoing baseball. And in my opinion, the worst commissioner in sports has turned out to be Ron Manfred. It's one thing. Let me be careful with my words. Actually, it's one thing what Trevor Bauer did was wrong. That's one thing. But to suspend him and then an additional 2 years, well, he was not found guilty of any of those alleged charges. But to suspend for Manfred to suspend Bauer an additional 2 years is ridiculous. When we've seen much less, if you talk about sports leagues, much less people who've been with domestic assault get basically suspended by commissioners for much less. Much less. In fact, Deshaun Watson has not been suspended by the league yet on although he was not found, he all the charges were dropped. He still hasn't been suspended, Deshaun Watson, and he's now with Cleveland. Now, if you're Baker Mayfield, you're really with you're really a quarterback without a team. I do kind of feel Baker Mayfield in that aspect. I think Mayfield will be on their team before you know it. It's only a matter of time for that. But on the Trevor Bauer situation, like I said, people get suspended for less than that. But that's why the 2 years is ridiculous. One got suspended for 20 games on a domestic disturbance, and yet Bauer gets suspended for 2 years. That is ridiculous. But also, it tells you how bad Rob Manfield as commissioner of the MLB, in my opinion. Now, with that out of the way, the NHL playoffs, I'm going to predict right now all the playoff games, if you're a fan of hockey. I'm going to start with Boston and Carolina in the East. I'm picking Carolina. Tampa Bay and Toronto, until they get beaten, I'm going to pick Tampa Bay. Will they three-peat? Possible. Then still in the East, Pittsburgh and the New York Rangers. Sorry about that. I'm picking New York Rangers. And then Washington and Florida. Florida is the prohibitive favorites to win the East. They go to the Stanley Cup final. I'm picking Florida. No doubt about it. Because Ovechkin's hurt and the team is not as good as Washington is not as good as they have been in the past, with all due respect. Now for the West, St. Louis and Minnesota. I'm picking Minnesota. Los Angeles King with a nice bounce back year, playing Edmonton, but Edmonton will win that. Will win that series. Then Nashville and Colorado. Colorado should make quick work of Nashville. No disrespect to Nashville. Colorado is the prohibitive favorite to win the Stanley Cup. And then Dallas and Calgary. I'm basically picking Calgary in that one. So that is it for Shawn 1113 podcast show. And want to make one more special mention. Happy Mother's Day to all the mothers out there, grandmothers, aunts, foster moms, what have you. Happy Mother's Day to you in advance. Enjoy your day on May 8th, 2022. Now, I've said it all. Thank you for listening to the Shawn 1113 podcast show. And as always, stay encouraged no matter what.